Welcome to Right Talk with Mike Lee. I have a show this evening that I've been looking forward to for some time. I've got a gang of people this time. I usually have maybe one or two guests. Today I've got a gang of people who I really wanted to have this show because I kind of wanted them to meet each other. I found out and I learned that Roger already knew Evelyn.
Yes.
Wow.
But I don't know if you knew Marilyn.
No, it's my
But
first
this
time
is
meeting
Dr.
two of them.
But my guests are Dr. Evelyn Robertson on the end there,
Pleasure.
Roger Davis, who's a member of my church, Eastside Church of Christ, and Marilyn Jackson, who's a conservative warrior like me, and then me. And of course, I have my wonderful producer, who's my wife, who runs everything,
Awesome.
including me. I just run my mouth. I want to welcome you guys to the show. And first of all, I want my viewers to know who my guests are. So, Dr. Robinson, tell us something about yourself.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, Mike, and thank you so much for inviting me. A little bit about myself. I'm a recent transplant here to Austin. Been here about a year. Love it. My daughter is 18. She's a college student at St. Edward's. And
Good school.
it's a wonderful school. It is really, really outstanding. I'm impressed with it. And I have a business that can be operated in all 50 states, and so I'm expanding out here. I do have a presence in California, Michigan, Washington, and Southern Cal. I think I said that. So the business, a little bit about that I'll tell, as we move on, but it mainly is one focused on helping small and medium-sized businesses.
Well, I met you at what, Austin Republican Women?
Yes,
Lunch?
yes, at the luncheon.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, we invaded the lunch, right?
it's a great luncheon.
we added. We the only ones that added some color to the lunch. Roger's from church. And Marilyn, I've had a hard time catching up with you the last few weeks. What you been up to? I know you started a business, didn't you?
I did. I'm in the trucking industry, and I don't drive. At this present time, I don't. I do have a CDL license, but I'm a broker, and I broker freight, and I have my property and casualty license, and I write commercial insurance for truckers.
Okay. But you're sort of a trailblazer in that you actually ran for public office, right?
I did.
As a Republican, didn't you? And you're still alive.
Yes, yes.
In the belly of the Democratic beast known as Travis County.
Yes.
A lot of nerve.
In my 4-1 hood.
In your 4-1 hood.
4-1, 787-41.
Evelyn, tell us a little bit more about your business. Someone asked me today what it was you did. I said, if you watch the show, she'll tell you because I really can't tell. I said, it's got something to do with fraud and all that. So tell us about that.
Yes, as you know, fraud, especially cyber fraud and credit card fraud is just running rampant. And the United States right now there's more fraud here than if you combine all the fraud in the world together.
Wow.
There's more fraud in the United States at this point in time. It's very upsetting. A lot of business owners they're just having a tough time because, these business owners work hard. This is their dream. And for someone just to come along and steal from them is not acceptable.
Is most of this stuff, is it taking place in the United States or outside the United States? Because I know when I call help desk and things like that, I end up talking to people in India and some of Bangladesh or somewhere, anywhere but the USA.
Well, cyber fraud and cyber crimes, I'm sure there's a way to track back where it's coming from. But certainly the United States is a very popular target. We're a very wealthy nation, but we earn it. This is the land of working hard and making your dreams come true. And most business owners, they start from scratch. It's like no one really gave them, a boatload of money to start. They start from scratch and build it up. And to have someone come along and steal from them is just not acceptable. It's ridiculous.
Now,
So-
Roger was on an earlier show, and you're kind of in the financial realm, aren't you, Roger? You're an accountant, CPA, something. Talk to us.
Yeah, well, that's definitely. I got a BS in accounting at Florida A&M University, so pretty much all my endeavors you know, whether it be from a commercial or community standpoint, usually are in the accounting financial realm. And and one of the things I'm going to, you know, talk about as we get further into the show is I even brought a little visual aid. This is our little financial fitness seminar that's going to be happening on October 28th.
Yeah, that's going to be at is it going to be on the east side?
Well, this event is happening at Austin Community College.
Is that the one you drafted me for? Drafted me for something. I'm supposed to do a presentation on wills somewhere.
Right. So, and definitely, you know, anytime I can garner talent to speak, usually I try to get at least a couple speakers for every subject if I can, because make sure we don't lose that session, you know, for Murphy's Law issues occurring, and I think it gives some good best practice sharing for the speakers as well.
Well, one of the things that I tried to do with the show and otherwise is to involve and reach out in the community and contribute positively.
That's awesome.
Well, that's definitely what this is all about. And the event is completely free to individuals, families, business owners. You know, all the speakers, none of them are selling anything. They're just giving out good tips.
I know if I'm on there, I'm not selling anything. I know I'm a lawyer, and I know we're known for being sharp, but I'm not pushing anything that day. It's just it's my way of trying to give back.
Yes.
Nice.
What a strategic place to have this.
Where's it going to be?
At ACC campus, but I think it's awesome that you're targeting or just having it there, you know, with the students. I mean, my goodness, they need to know how to begin to start getting financially fit and getting ready.
Yes. And in the great and wealthy nation that you know that Evelyn's already mentioned, it's a shame to make it more difficult for yourself if you don't take good care of your finances as you grow.
Yeah, it's important.
And the earlier you start good habits, the easier it is down the road. It's, oh man, so.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, Evelyn, can you tell us a little more about fraud and its prevalence and how it starts and
Yeah.
what it costs us? And
I think I'd like to talk a little bit about fraud. Thank you. And to start off with, let's take a look at slide 3. There's a
we got some slides to look at.
yes, we do. Yes, we do. So, fraud is huge. There's a lot of different types of fraud going on, and the area that I focus on is the fraud that impacts small to medium-sized businesses, because typically those are the businesses that really can't afford, you know, the high-priced consultants to come in and help them with their business, and many times the business owners are just running hard and fast, and so they don't have time to really pause and sit and wait and, you know, take a look at what's happening. So fraud occurs a lot of different ways. There's a lot of credit card fraud right now. Credit card numbers are being stolen. A lot of data is being stolen. And it's being stolen basically from the magnetic strip that's on the back of the credit cards, which is easily compromised. There is a solution for that, and I'll talk about that on a future slide. But basically, it's either the physical card is stolen, okay? With the physical card being stolen, then, you know, fraudsters have the the name on the front of the card, the card number, the CVV, and then they take that and they sell that. So they sell it to criminals, and those criminals replicate the card, and then you know, it's off to the races. And so they just start buying things until they get caught, basically. So there's a lot of fraud. There's about, for every 2 seconds, there's one fraud being committed. So every 2 seconds, there's another fraud being committed against someone. And in the credit card space, which is only about maybe 45 years old, there was a huge transition October 2015. In that transition, shifted the liability for the fraud to the merchant, which means the aftermath of the fraud. So in the past, you know, someone else paid for it, either the, you know, the banks, credit unions, et cetera. They paid for the fraud if fraud occurred, and so the merchant didn't have to pay for it. But now there's so much, it's $15 billion worth of fraud in 2015, and that is just a huge amount. So the
Well,
liability has shifted now to the
That's going to hurt
merchant.
small business tremendously, isn't it?
It is, and there are businesses going out of business because they can't afford the fines and the penalties, and or the loss of the reputation, or the loss of their customers. When Target was impacted, they lost 30% of their customers. 30% left Target, never came back because Target was compromised and breached.
Okay.
So, so if we take a look at, and I know most businesses can't afford to lose 30% of their customers. So if we take a look at slide 4, we can take a look at a couple of ways that these fraudsters are impacting businesses. They're using skimmers, scrapers. They're using malware, you know, to try to steal. And you can see there's a picture on the screen now. You can see a person in a blue shirt that's distracting the owner or whoever's in charge there. And then you see the person to their left snapping down a device on top of the terminal. And when a card is slipped through that terminal, then the information and the private data for the customer is stolen. Now, as of October 2015, it's up to the merchant to protect their customers' private data. If you think of HIPAA, you know, protecting your medical data, it's up to the merchants now to protect their customers' private data, which is their name, their address, et cetera, their CVV number, and all of that. And that can be done, you know, these days. There is a remedy for that. There's malware. Malware is huge as well. Malware is on the upswing, and just from a short period of 3 years, from 2011 to 2013, there was a 300% increase in malware. So that's the malicious software that, if we take a look at slide 5, we can see.
It's the Russians. Putin did it.
Is it? Well, there's a lot of people involved, I think, you know, so you can see that this malware is everywhere. It's on the web, it's in email. A lot of email is 10% of the 75% of inbound email is spam, and of that, 10% is malicious software. So it comes through apps, it comes through the point of sale system too, it comes through the network. A lot of different ways that, you know, that malware can get into it, can get into the system. But what's really sad is what you see on slide 6, and that is that a lot of small businesses, they don't think they need it. They don't think that they need protection. They think that they're going to be fine. They think that they're not liable, or they believe nothing's happened to them yet, so they're okay.
How can you help them? How can you
So
help
the way
them?
that I help them is by doing a couple of things. Number one, we partner with our merchants, and we provide a consultant for them. Now, I'm the local consultant here in the Austin area, and so I not only help them with their point of sale system, but I also help stick with them as they grow. So basically what that means is that we ensure that they have the proper equipment to take the new cards, which are the chip cards that have the little chip in it. You all have one, right?
Yeah, I had a question on that, by the way. Back in 1997 or 98, I was working with a firm in the Virgin Islands in St. Croix, and I was working on a project with a gentleman out of France and a lawyer out of France, and we were trying to introduce chip technology back then, but I'm just now seeing it.
Now, what year was that?
That was in 97.
Well, chip technology has been out for a while.
Yes.
It's been in Europe and Mexico, Canada, Australia, New Zealand for over 14 years.
Wow.
And yeah, we just now are getting it.
Does that add a layer of protection of some kind of way?
It does. It's an encryption is pretty much unbreakable. Encryption has a certain algorithm that is when you insert the card into a device. This is a point of sale device right here. This is by the Clover company. First Data owns Clover. So you insert the chip card here, it is immediately encrypted, and then it's sent across to its final destination. When it gets to its final destination, it has to be unencrypted, which only the final place that has a token can unlock the encryption. So it's encrypted and tokenized. So with that, fraud has decreased by over 70% in Europe and Mexico and
So it
Canada,
adds a
et
layer
cetera.
of protection that otherwise didn't exist.
Absolutely. So this protection, it does protect the merchant. It protects the card holder. But if a card holder comes to a business and wants to purchase something and they have a chip card, the merchant must use equipment that accepts the chip. Okay? They have to use equipment that accepts the chip. If they try to swipe the chip card, that's when the merchant is liable. And they're liable for 100% of the fraud, penalties, everything else that come along with that. And
Marilyn, you reacted to that.
Well, because there's still some places that don't have the proper equipment for the chip card.
For the chip?
yeah.
Yes, and it's amazing. Now you're saying that they're responsible for it, so that's a good thing to know.
Right, and so the customer, the card holder, will not be responsible for the fraud, should fraud occur. But the merchant is responsible. And they're responsible when they start accepting credit cards, they are telling the credit card associations, American Express, Discover, MasterCard, Visa, they're saying that I will protect my customers' private data. That's what they're telling, and it's in their terms and conditions. It's a 52-page document that they must read. A lot of them don't read it, but it's right in there. They have to protect their customers. So let's take a look at, there's a slide that says business impact of a breach, and I'm gonna just share with you what happens to a merchant when they're breached. If they are breached, unfortunately, then the breach has to be investigated. And this is interesting. If it's even suspected that there's a breach, an investigation will take place. And if there is a breach, an investigation will take place. And the merchant is not responsible for conducting that investigation. That'll be from an external source. That'll be conducting the investigation, which is going to cost the merchant between $20,000 to $50,000. The merchant has to pay that. They have to pay for the cost of the investigation of the breach. Then on top of that, because they were breached and probably because they didn't take care of business, then they're going to get fines and penalties added onto that. And those fines and penalties are anywhere from about $5,000 up to $50,000.
So business is even more risky than it is anyway.
Yes. Then there's all the loss of confidential data. A lot of the business data is lost as well as the customer's data. And then on top of all of that, then the merchant is responsible for remediating the issue. And they're responsible for 1 year worth of credit monitoring. They have to offer that to those customers that have been impacted. And there are many, many other things. And so, I call it the hurt locker, that you don't want to be in it. And so the way to prevent getting in it is to get the proper equipment to, and so that will ensure that you won't be responsible for the fines and penalties, et cetera. So the liability that has shifted to the merchant is alleviated if they utilize the right equipment. They take the chip card and they insert it into a device, a point-of-sale system that will accept the chip card. Okay, so it's as simple as that, really. And our company, I know there are others out there. Basically, a lot of them just ship the equipment in the mail and say, here it is, and then it's up to the owner to open the box, figure it out, how, what am I doing? But we're right there with the merchant every step of the way. As long as they're with us, we're with them. Okay, so we help them, we partner with them, we help them grow. Also, with the new point-of-sale systems, there are many app developers that are coming up with creative apps for the business owner. And so we propose, certain apps that we think that might help the business, like either inventory management, employee management, rewards cards. There are many. There's over 300. Some of them are free, and some of them are very, very reasonable. And so we help put together a customized package. So you might say that, we're kind of a concierge level boutique type of a merchant processing company.
I see Roger nodding his head a lot. and And I must add that when I was working on the project, we were trying to introduce the chip technology into, I think, the Dominican Republic at the time.
Oh,
But we were concerned with primarily telephones.
oh,
Trying to work with a telephone company down there. Now, Roger, all that head nodding suggests to me that you have some understanding as to what she's talking about. I was a poor English major in college, so when you start talking numbers and certain things, I don't know. I hear you, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, she's talking about something very important, from an accounting standpoint. Independence and security are very big issues. As a matter of fact, a whole segment of accounting is basically auditing, is making sure that the processes that are in place were prescribed by management. They are adequate for the purpose that they're put in place, and then finally to make sure that they're even being followed. Because you can have the greatest process in the world, but if your employees aren't following it, it's like, for example, it's a very slick-looking device she has there, but normally when we go, I see the ones where you either have the side down the side, or you can stick it in. And I've been places where I'm ready to stick the chip in. They say, "Oh no, please slide it." So it makes you wonder: does the employee know the importance of using the chip versus
the place
sliding
that
the
says
card?
slide it, you might want to.
might not want to do that.
Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
because they may not have the right equipment, or it may not be working. Oh my goodness! But
So
I
you
do
don't
want
want to do
to
that.
ask you: so is the federal government making it a mandatory thing for all credit card? I don't want to say producers, but for the merchants that have credit cards, like, I have a credit card that have the chip on it. So are they making it mandatory that all credit cards and debit cards at some point in time have the chip on there?
Interesting question, because it's not federally mandated. This is an association change in strategy and policy. So it's the credit. It's an organization called EMV, that stands for EuroPay, MasterCard, and Visa. MasterCard and Visa and EuroPay out of Europe, they came together and they said, we've got to do something to stop this fraud. So they came up with the chip card, okay? And it absolutely does work, but it is not a mandate from the government. But what happens is, now if you want to play in the credit card space, then you've got to follow the association's rules. So the association, EuroPay, MasterCard, and Visa, is saying you must use this. And if you don't, it's up to you, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner. But, you're going to get, if should fraud occur and you haven't had the right equipment, then you will pay the fines and the penalties, and you will have to remediate, whatever happens. And there's just a lot of businesses don't recover from it.
All the time when the government interferes with so many things, why is it that this is something that they're not really cracking down on, really to try to prevent, less fraud from happening? It just really bothers me that they are not, I don't want to say the word making it mandatory, but really making it mandatory.
Well, I get that, and it's not mandatory, but if you don't do it, then you're on the other side of having a robust and healthy business. So let's take a look at. There's a slide that could help Marilyn. It's called. It's entitled EMV and PCI, Notable Changes in 2015. So EMV, again, EuroPay, MasterCard, and Visa, and then PCI is the payment card industry. They came up with new standards, and the standards say that that the business owner has to monitor their terminals, monitor their point of sale systems, and they have to make sure that they have the right equipment to be able to take the new chip cards. So that is coming out of EuroPay, MasterCard, and Visa. And as you can see, the liability for if any fraud occurred shifted back in 2015. And and back when the shift occurred, there weren't very many people that had their chip cards yet, you know, so the chip cards started slowly coming out. It would cost $10 billion to do that. It's $10 billion all up and in for all the banks, credit card companies to renew and to send out all those new cards with the chips, because most people have more than one, right? You have more than one card, and you know it's expensive to do.
And most government, they slowly phase in things anyway, because and out of respect for a lot of the small businesses, you know, because they don't have access to capital to make those quick changes. And I mean, you could look at a lot of businesses, you know, how seat belts came in. And, I mean, you know, how certain cars, you know, have certain new things. They're slowly rolled in, with the exception of when, like for example, traffic. You know, maybe a stoplight needs to be there, and unfortunately, the stoplight doesn't get there
until something bad happens.
Something bad happens, then they rush and fix, and you know. But you know, usually government slowly rolls things in, so because because everyone sees the need, but if they can manage it, that's what they try to do. And
Well, I know that when I was working on that project involving the chip card back in '97, which is what, 20 years ago? I didn't know all that stuff. I didn't know all that was involved. And so, you know, a lot of my silence right now is because of ignorance and because I'm trying to learn and trying to understand. Marilyn, on the other hand, may be terrified having to open up a new business.
Well, my thing too is that I see why the government hadn't made it mandatory. If they put the burden on the merchant and they no longer pay or take care of those fraudulent things, then it's nothing to worry.
Yeah, and the government was not responsible for handling the fraud. It was the credit card associations, the banks, credit unions. It was up to them. So, and for us as card holders, we're still not responsible. So if somebody frauds, you know, your card or your card, we're still not responsible. Somebody else is picking up that dime, you might say, and it's certainly not the government. The government is not doing it. So, but something had to happen. I just have another stat that said fraudsters have stolen $112 billion in the last 6 years. So that between 2011 to 2016, $112 billion. That's about $35,000 per minute. That's how much is being stolen. And so something had to happen. So you would think, you know, whoever is paying the freight, you might say, and paying for someone else to, you know,
There are going to be some
paying for
serious
that, they're the
prosecutions
ones that are
coming
gonna
down
fix it.
somewhere at some point.
Oh, wow.
So, but I'm here to help. You know, I mean, Walmart, they took care of their issue. They were frauded. Target was frauded. You know, Michael's stores. There are so many. I have a listing of 244 breaches. You know, Equifax is just the recent one. You know, with 143 million files. But this just goes on and on and on for pages. It's 244 breaches. Some of them were, you know, because the system was hacked. Their system was hacked. Poor security. Lost or stolen media, or even inside job. So there's so many different ways that this fraud is occurring that we've just got to make sure that we protect ourselves as business owners.
Makes you want to go back to cash. Remember, we used to put our money up under the mattress.
Yeah,
Mom and them, grandma used to
checks.
put up under the mattress, and
Yeah.
ooh,
Well, you know, another way that customers can purchase is what's called NFC. That's near field communications, and that's when it's just like when you go to Starbucks and you know you take your phone and you tap the register and then money comes out of your account because you have the app on there. Our equipment does the same thing. So
Awesome.
with this Clover equipment, this is one that snaps down on your tablet or your phone. So a customer can tap this. A customer can tap, you know, the point of sale devices, and money will come out. So that's another way, instead of the card. Yeah, they can use NFC, which is virtually safe.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow,
Thank you.
it's amazing.
No, it's
amazing.
terrifying to me.
Well, it is amazingly terrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to man, the sneaky, habits people have that,
And these
the
are people
evildoers.
that, it's interesting because these syndicates, these fraud syndicates, I mean, they operate almost like a legitimate business. So they've got their CFO, they've got their CEO, they've got, all these people in place. They've got their sales force that just goes out and steals, and they've got their cyber criminals. They're always hacking. I mean, but it is very lucrative. It's horrible. It's very lucrative for them, to steal. So they could put that brain power to use in a much better fashion, of course, but do they? No.
Oh, no.
So, well, I think in Singapore, if you steal, you get to choose which hand you want chopped off.
Well,
Did I say that?
That's I don't know if that's too bad a system.
some old school remedies need to come on back. Huh? Oh my God, that is amazing.
Yeah. I just hate crime. I hate fraud, especially, and I'm a small business owner, and I want to help fellow small business owners to protect themselves. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it just lets you know that
You still gonna open up, huh?
Yes, we can help you. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, it lets you know that business owners, should never stop learning for things. Not only the main passion that makes them money, but things surrounding that, because so many indirect things can affect your business. That's why we're proud to offer these free services and this free program, and I'm also a board member with the Greater Austin Black Chamber, and we offer a lot of free sessions with business owners and business owners should, there's a lot of free things being offered
Awesome.
that you can get tips from experts like Evelyn. You just can't, it's so easy because we all want to step back and enjoy life. So, but and enjoy the fruits. But once you start making green, somebody else wants that green, and so you never should stop learning new tips or new ways to sharpen and protect your business because it's protecting the business as well as making the money.
Yeah.
That is true.
I think it's an exceptional idea because I know a lot of, it's not taught in high school. What? Financial fitness, financial planning, all that. It's not taught. You're expected to just learn it yourself or, try to find professionals to help you when you get older. And if people start off, I know, early in life, right? Start off with some really good financial tips and processes, then they're in much better shape come retirement time.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Yes.
You're right. And I think parents have a major, big role in starting that at home as well. Because I was just thinking when she said that about school, I thought about when I was in home economics, and I thought, you know what? Miss Effenberger taught us about making a meal plan, 5 steps to taking a bath, but nobody ever really talked about the economic side of it, And so I guess if I'm a student, if my parents are not telling me to save money and blah, 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 then I may not even be concerned about taking it in school if I have not taught at home to do such a thing. So I really think, I think us as parents, we really have a major role in teaching our kids how to be financially fit, as you say.
Well, I guess the big 3 is, money, sex, and religion. And a lot of families don't want to talk about it because it brings up so much emotions. And you want me to tell you how I'm spending my money. Do you think I'm spending my money wrong? That's the first thought. Or I don't know how to spend my money. So all those, the defenses go up because it hits at the heart of a lot of people versus really talking it out. And if you're doing a great job, fantastic, so other people can learn from you. Or you may be doing a good job, but you could be doing a great job. And but just getting the conversation started in a safe environment, no one's selling anything, they're just giving you some tips, some great tips that maybe have been tested over time, and maybe some new things to concern yourself with. You know, because like I say, chip technology hasn't been around forever, and just like the computer wasn't around forever. You know, like I talked to some kids and I asked them, "Have you ever seen a phone booth?" See, I don't know if anybody has seen a phone booth lately. You know, but I grew up watching Superman. You know, he go into the Clark Kent go into the phone booth and he changed. A lot of kids don't. You know, well, phone booth. What is that?
Yeah,
You know,
they don't know.
and so you know, so it's learning how to successfully run your business, but also how to protect it. And like for example, you mentioned that you, because of your passion, you learn how to write insurance. And helping those that are in need in your profession, because you realize the importance. And you probably didn't initially want to do that, but you realize how important it was as you went along.
Right. I wanted to do it initially too, because I know when any person that get their motor carrier number, two things they need. Number one, you need some insurance before you can even get your MC number, and number two, you need some jobs. You need some loads. So I'm like, okay, I have a one-stop shop then.
Yeah.
But it is so
great.
important, you know.
Insurance is really, really important. You know, it's just that, just in case, just in case something happens, then you're protected.
You're right, because a lot of things can happen nowadays. Wow.
So everything can't be free as some people think.
Right. That's true.
And I share with my wife all the time. There's no such thing as free. Somebody's paying somewhere.
Even the free ain't free.
No such thing as free.
Yeah.
It's something.
Yeah. Well, it's
something.
economics. I mean, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody is paying for it. Yep. So
At least in sweat. You know, the farmer had to go out there and get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Roger, in addition to the financial fitness seminar, you also have a radio show, don't you? You have a radio show? Is it a radio show?
Well,
What is it about?
Well, I don't have a radio show related to this.
What is it?
One of our
that
our
the
local
show?
board members, Hopeton Hay, he has a radio show called Economic Perspectives, and it comes on Mondays at 5:30. Excellent show. Okay, it's on KZI 88.7, and he brings on financial experts all the time. And matter of fact, he loves to read. He reads their books, and he'll have them come on, and he always has us on as well to talk about the upcoming show, so that's a blessing, and he's open to anyone. who might
AM
wanna
or
come.
PM?
It's FM.
FM, AM? I mean, I'm sorry, in the morning or in the evening? I'm sorry.
5:30 p.m.
5:30 p.m.
on
Mondays.
Mondays.
On
Oh,
Monday?
I'll have to tune in.
Yeah. So so he can have people come into the studio, or he can also do it via conference call. You know, because he's had guests who've been in the D.C. area and have done it on the show. So, so that's the blessing. So that's free. Tips for business owners. And so, excuse me, it's kind of remind me, like I tell my kids when I take them to the library, spend the first 5 minutes on what your dream is. And then after that, if you want to go look at Ebony Jet, play video games, whatever, that's fine. And usually they spend more than 5 minutes
Oh, that's good.
because they're picking what they want.
right.
So what you're going to do in life. And it's the same principle if you're a business owner, because you can get so enveloped in the day-to-day operations of making that green. You've got to carve out, some time that is improving for the future or helping on some other area. Like for church, we gotta carve out 10%. You gotta if you don't carve it out first, if you don't plan for it, you'll never get to it, because the busy, important, they're important things. new technology coming on that is affecting your business. You gotta carve out some time.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
true.
it's so true. I mean, they can continuously learn because things are happening faster and faster. I mean, the speed is just ramping up, and there is new technology out there all the time that might be able to help. And I think business owners, I mean, they're always looking for ways to be a little bit more efficient, and so they won't be spending, 12 to 15 hours, there and not being able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. So it's really important to stay up to speed on that. I wanted to mention.
So with that in mind, it becomes important to any business person to have contacts outside of his business to constantly be expanding how he or she looks at things. You were about to say something, Doctor?
I was just going to say, if I could add on to the whole protection thing that we were talking about a second ago. With our agency, with our card processing agency, we do offer protection to the merchant just in case anything happens, and we have a liability waiver that is up to $100,000.
Okay.
So when you add up all of those fines and fees and everything else, it comes out average about $90,000. So we offer a liability waiver where we'll pay back up to $100,000. And
Wow.
if the merchant has 5 locations, we'll cover all 5, and so that's effectively $500,000.
That's a big much. I mean, if you're ever in that predicament, that is a really good thing.
Yeah,
know?
we want to protect the merchant all around, all sides when it comes to processing and make sure they get their money in their bank account as quickly as possible with no errors and safely and securely.
That is awesome.
What you do must be quite challenging because most of the focus is on the consumers, more so than the merchants.
Yeah.
And to me, if the community is going to grow, if any community is going to grow, we have to give some attention to the merchants.
Right. Well, small business is really the backbone of America. And the small business owner, I think, deserves a little bit more attention, attention and help. Yeah. So we're here to do that on the card processing side. We're here to do that to help them and grow their business and make sure that they have everything that they need, when it comes to other types of areas like I mentioned, inventory control and employee management, clock in, clock out, those types of things, rewards cards. So we sit down with the merchant and we just evaluate their whole business, and figure out what we believe would be a really good solution for them.
That's good.
Thanks.
Tell me something, Marilyn.
Well, I
How do
actually
you
want
react to all this?
it's really well, and I want to ask Richard. Okay, so the chamber that you were a part of, or on the board, do you all help small businesses or entrepreneurs that with information about if there's any type of grant money or anything for minorities, minority women, or if there's any monies out there that can help I'm asking for myself,
Oh,
a
most
minority
definitely.
a minority female businesswoman.
There's
Most
nothing wrong.
definitely.
There's nothing wrong.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong being
definitely.
having a selfish program.
That's
I
right.
need
That's
to
right.
know.
That's right.
I
That's
need
right.
to know.
Well, basically, in a nutshell, the mission of the Greater Austin Black Chamber is to increase, the success of Black wealth and Black business in the Greater Austin area. And now, of course, even though we have a fantastic President and CEO, Tam Hawkins, but with her and just a staff of 3 folk, as vast as many business owners that we have, they can't meet with them all at the same time.
Right.
And so what we try to do in those cases is be a conduit of pointing you to those services and in the area, and especially those who are our members. Because we would love, if you're not already Black Chamber members, we want you to be, because as those resources come, then it makes it so much easier for us to pass that out to you, because you're going to have, like, for example, most folk are aware of the major sponsors. Like, for example, we have the sponsors here, like my own company, 3M. They're always looking for vendors that supply them. So that's one of the things that the Black Chamber is wanting to do, is as we meet with those companies, we want to help point them to membership and connect them so that business can occur in that regard. And also, we want to let you know about a lot of our business owners aren't aware of different angel or other joint venture funding sources. Now, of course, pointing you to them is one side of it.
Right.
The other side of it, and that gets into why we do this as well, everybody wants money, but lots of times funding sources expect you to have your information organized before they give you the money. And a lot of people have a rude awakening
About the business plan.
about their business plan. Are they up to date on their taxes with the city, state and federal? Have their financials been audited? Do they have a functioning website? And I mean, because again, when we mentioned before, business owners can be going along making money, but a lot of things that a funding source is looking for, they won't have, because they want to protect their investment.
Roger, you mentioned Tam Hawkins. Tam and I were on the City of Boston African American Resource Advisory Commission together. And my wife, who's my producer, and I have actually talked to her about appearing on the show. So when I do have her on the show, Marilyn, I might hit you down if you might be able to talk to her.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
And we'd love for you to come down, and we can make an appointment and talk at any time.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I'll be seeing her this week, because our board meetings are bi-monthly on the third Thursday of every month. So
Okay.
so I'll be seeing her shortly, and then of course, connecting you with funding sources is one way, and then of course the other way is where we can, coordinate or organize events where we can help business owners, and because business owners are in different stages. You've got some business owners that it's just a one horse or one family business, and then you've got those with X amount of employees, and you got your major ones. So for example, something that we were talking about earlier, that kind of grew out of a need of these members, the Soul Food Truck Festival, and where the chamber partnered with Soul City and the Black Professional Alliance, and we had a picnic and Soul Food Festival. So it was in the Carver. It was behind the Carver Museum in the grounds back there. I had never been back there, so and there were some excellent exhibits and statues back there, and they fenced off the area where people come in, and then of course these businesses are those one person family businesses. They don't have a big amount of cash in the bank. But they still are trying to support themselves and their family, and so all the food trucks were set up in a little carnival festival setting, and advertised very well, and it was packed.
I bet it smelled good.
And it smelled good, tasted good. And
You sound like
Everything
you
you
sound like you
could
went there and had something to eat there, Roger.
oh man,
That was your
one
main purpose for being
of our church members has a truck called Rib Majesty,
I know about that.
and the barbecue is falling off the bone.
Oh, I know about
Where does
that
that
one.
truck be at? Where's that truck
Yeah,
be at?
he was up on 12th and Chacon, but then he moved out on, where is that off of Cameron?
Yeah,
Somewhere off Cameron?
Yeah, and so that brought business clients and exposed those businesses.
Awesome.
And so now, of course, if they, had business cards and had flyers and information for clients, or maybe their website ready, where so clients can connect with them, that would be a great start to booming the business.
Okay.
And many of them did. I attended. It was an excellent event.
I wish I
Excellent.
would have
Wow,
known.
beautiful.
It was
I wish I would
excellent.
have
So
known.
we
I
were
wouldn't have he went out there and had me some food.
sampling,
Too.
going around from truck
Looked
to truck,
around,
sampling.
right? Oh
Yeah,
my
it was
God.
very good.
One of the things I like to try to do with this show is to try to educate, inform, and enlighten the community and bring, one of the things Ken Thompson, who was on the commission with me also, he mentioned that we operate in silos and we don't always know what each other is doing and how we can help each other. In terms of, it's like we're in silos and we need to be in touch to know how we can work with each other, how we can help each other.
True.
And that's one of the things that I try to do as in my function as outreach director for the TCRP. Because I see it in just about every show. I believe that what's good for the black community is good for the community. And all my conservative friends out there, I don't care if you get mad, because you know I don't care. Because I just believe that's true. Because I believe that if the boat rises and we're all on the same boat, we're all in better shape.
Wow.
I want to thank you ladies and gentlemen, for being on my
you.
show.
You're
Great
welcome.
show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This
Well,
your second time, right, Roger?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
You're gonna
Super.
be back again because sometimes we need to talk about that money. You love to do that. In addition to that, you always keep me in touch with some things that are going on. I get emails from you. I get more emails from you than I got from any guests I've ever had.
Yeah.
So, well, this is going on.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the Black Professional Alliance grew out of people constantly asking me, where are the black folk? What is it for black folk to do?
Right.
People kept asking me that. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to grow the NABA chapter. But you can't ignore the need. So informing talented people like you.
You mean like them?
Then that creates opportunity for everyone. Like you said, that raises the boat. Because I can't do it all. I mean, as
Well,
talented as we are, we
it's-
only
it's
got 27 hours,
sometimes
24 hours and 7.
It's like when I was in law school. When I was in law school, Lorenzo Brown and I, we formed the Black American Law Student Association at SMU's law school. Before that, there was none. And I don't know where it's like his idea to go to some Black American Law Student Convention conference in Atlanta, and we drove there in his car. I don't know how he afforded that. And while we were there, we decided that we connect with the guys from UT and the guys from New Mexico's law school. And they said they wanted to have a regional conference. And we went back to SMU and we told them, guess what you're doing? You're sponsoring a Black American Regional Law School Conference. And they looked at us like, you must be crazy. And we looked at him like, yeah, we crazy, but it happened. And they have a Black American Law Student Association there now. But it takes things like that. You just have to just step out there and just be nuts.
Yeah.
But again, I want to thank you
Thank
people
you.
for being on the
Oh,
show.
you're welcome.
And I hope we can do it again sometime. I got to get you back soon, get you on with Tam Hawkins. So we can try.